Hi everyone, my name is Dafna Yanay. I lead strategic initiatives at AWS, and I'm very excited to be here today with industry leaders talking about digital brands and how connectivity can help them be more innovative and bring better experience to their customers. So let's start by a brief introduction. Stephanie.
Hi everyone, my name is Stephanie Ormston and I'm the Assistant Vice President for the MVNX ecosystem at AT&T. So I have our traditional MVNO business, everything from customer success, product, platform, day two operations, and a lot of what we're doing is really bringing together and curating an ecosystem of collaborators and partners like OXIO, like AWS, like a number of others to really bring network capabilities to digital brands in a way that enables them to innovate.
Hi everyone, Adil Baliumji, I'm the CTO at OXIO. Been here for some time now, about a year and 5 months, and ever since really excited with all the revolutionized work that we are doing for the telco industry. Building a telecom as a service platform, collaborating with AT&T as one of our prime networks in the United States, and also working on bringing it to the cloud with AWS. So really excited to be here and happy for this conversation.
Ayman Saidi. I'm a principal architect at AWS. I look at network data and AI, and mainly I'm helping customers such as Adil and others to transform and digitally transform their architecture onto the cloud.
So Stephanie, let's take a step back and understand digital brands. Can you tell us a little bit, who they are and how AT&T is supporting them with your connectivity services?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we've seen a lot of and what we're starting to see as consumer expectations are changing. We think in a post-COVID society, we've gotten very used to on-demand. We want a value proposition that is more compelling, that resonates more with the identity, especially as younger consumers come into buying power. So the expectation from brands to deliver to their customers is changing. It really is much more about how do I relate and what value can I provide. And so at AT&T, historically we've served the MVNO market, which is a traditional B2B2C model, and most of those historically have been just a different form of connectivity and mobility service. But we're starting to see that merge with other types of digital products, digital brands, digital subscriptions. And we start to see that a lot of these more digital cloud-native brands are understanding the value of connectivity as an offering to their customer base. And so the space of MVNOs, which is why at AT&T we call it MVNX, because it really stands for experiences, is more non-traditional telco players entering the connectivity space. So digital brands that can use connectivity as a way to endear loyalty, kind of bring that stickiness factor, but also bring access to different types of segments and underserved segments in ways that we haven't necessarily seen happen before. So at AT&T, we're bringing together, like I said, this ecosystem of different capabilities so that digital brands from any level of maturity or any level of understanding of the telco arena can start to bring connectivity and embed connectivity into their offerings so that they have a better value proposition to their customers.
I think it's something that we discussed about for a year, about how we add value on top of the connectivity and really bringing things to digital brands to better entertain and meet their customers. Yeah. OXIO, Adil, you just announced a really exciting offering, telco as a service with AT&T.
Right.
Can you share a bit more about your vision and how you're supporting AT&T?
Right.
With this digital brand initiative?
I talked about telecom as a service, and effectively think of this as a platform that rides on top of connectivity using cell towers that are actually already been there for like AT&T or other networks that we actually connect in. We are a global platform that basically is using the cloud to actually deploy services and have connected experiences for brands that otherwise wouldn't really get connectivity from typical MNOs. And very happy to kind of showcase the power of what telecom as a service really is, because it's like a cloud offering that's a turnkey solution for MVNOs. So brands that otherwise wouldn't be MVNOs are now actually entering the market with experiences that they would actually provide to give, bring out their offering as a service where they can actually connect in with other things that they actually offer, like media services or fintech or other types of industries that we actually deal with. And it ranges from prepaid, postpaid, enterprise, all the way to up to M2M and IoT. And these brands essentially, they want control of the user experience. They want control of the data. They want control of the network services that they're offering. And that's what telecom as a service actually does. It uses AT&T as a network provider, but at the same time, we actually provide from the core all the way up to the app, better services, better experiences, and real-time capabilities, a thin layer of an API, which is really consumable by technology companies, and less of a jargon of telco and more of API-driven architecture, which allows them to actually enhance their experiences that they provide to the customer.
So simplifying the experience while still giving them control to
Right.
modify and do whatever they want.
Absolutely.
In a very technology-oriented
Right.
way. So Ayman,
Yep.
how does cloud relate to all this, and this exciting offering? And speaking of APIs and simplicity, so can you talk a bit more about the AWS role within this proposition?
Absolutely. So what I like about telco as a service is ultimately technology as a service, but finally we're viewing telco as a technology. So it is a component that
Right.
could be provided as a service and then take advantage of the cloud. And if we're looking at all the brands, right, so it's ultimately about speed, scale, and security. So for someone like OXIO and AT&T, that relationship that they're having with brand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, how do you scale to support all those brands? And that's what the cloud brings. So essentially, you have the ability to spin up a part of the network or part of, let's say, that experience to be provided from a connectivity standpoint to that user. So with AWS Cloud, we provide the scale, and that's what OXIO is taking advantage. So through that,
Right.
you have the ability to essentially deploy a control plane network across multiple regions or across local zone or even outposts. The same thing with the user plane. So there's those connectivity capability that could be pinpointed and essentially narrowed down to what is the type of quality of service that you need, what is the experience that you need for a given customers, and what is essentially the most cost-efficient way. And how do you make that as quickly as possible? And that's essentially what OXIO is taking advantage of, and that's
Right.
quite exciting. And there's obviously security, right? It's really important that you're able to differentiate between brand 1 and 2. They don't know one another, and you keep those experiences separated.
Right.
I'm actually quite excited to see what we're doing as well.
So we spoke about speed, about scale, security,
Absolutely.
flexibility.
Flexibility.
Cannot believe we didn't mention AI yet.
Oh, we'll have plenty of time.
The
So,
topic
yeah.
of the day. So yeah, I'm interested a little bit because I think with having this technology platform
Right.
and your vision and thinking about the network data that you have on the AT&T side, the consumer data that you have. So what do you do with it? I mean, how can you help these digital brands provide a much better experience to the customers at the end of the day by really leveraging all the data?
Again, that's the great part about running the MVNO business is getting to work with essentially mini AT&Ts in that way, right? There's a lot of different applications of what we've done at scale for the network that we can then bring to bear and support our MVNO customers and our partners, right? So a lot of the work that we've done, and AT&T has been using AI at the network level and our data assets for quite some time as it relates to predictive maintenance, predictive outages, anything as relates to the network customer experience, we've really been using for quite some time. So how do we take that through those AI models and bring that and make that accessible to the benefit of our MVNO customers? How do we make it easier for them to do proactive operations, and how do we make it easier for them to better serve their customers by giving them visibility into the ongoing operations? And so that's a lot of what we're bringing through the partnership with OXIO as well as through our platform.
So I would like to also hear about this from your perspective, Adil. I mean,
Yeah. Look, I think, like AI has been around for a very long time. And I think now you're starting to see the generations of AI actually, whether it's, using generative AI or even agentic, right? And I think the models are there to kind of service up, the brands which we actually operate in and give them better flexibility in terms of like creating dynamic plans on the fly, driven by an AI model on the back end. But there's also, using AI for, as Stephanie mentioned about the network itself. So being predictive, being, self-healing, and having the ability to kind of bring in the conceptual view of the network to the customer, so the customer knows when outages happen, knows when things are down. And it's all about managing that experience at the point in time when it really happens, not 6 hours later, not 10 hours later. It's right then and there, right? And our goal and our mission is to build a autonomous global cloud network at the core, connecting with multiple MNOs. And that's basically what we're driving towards. And you have to do that based on the newer technologies like agentic. I mean, that allows you to do predictive. It allows you to actually think about what the cure would be, and then also notify the customer. And in certain cases, even just solve it without notifying the customer, like on behalf of them, right?
Proactive, yeah.
And be more proactive about it. But I think that the viewpoints are shifting into, the plans that get created, and from the plans, like what are the additional insights that we can give? Because our data capacity that we have, we are gathering all that information from the core, and we are also gathering information from the customer experience. So now you've got a full corpus of the customer and a full 360 view of how they're using the network and how they're using the brand from the northbound interfaces. So you can predict better services, predict better offers, have a better next best action for that customer for that point in time where they are in the journey, whether it's an order management system or it's just using the service. So I think I'm really excited about that layer that we are going to bring in along with the core and the compute layer of the cloud, along with the agentic aspect of AI. Combined together, you have a nice offering that you can leverage for all brands and any brands that are in this modern age, I should say.
Yeah,
right?
I love it. And I think that we talked on self-healing and the network and the, being proactive, but also you touched a little bit about next best action and personalization, which I do want to talk about in more details.
Yeah.
But what do you see, how do you see this from the AWS side? So how, in terms of the services and the technology, can you really help?
No, it's the breadth of AWS service, but also the simplicity for the AWS service. So in terms of, for example, of OXIO, there's a leveraging of Amazon Bedrock for generating some of the Gen AI capability and having access to different set of LLM, and choosing the LLM that is the most cost efficient for a given use case. Because essentially, if you want to build an application that help a NOC engineer, or how do I interact with my network to understand how my network is behavior, you may follow a certain set of architecture. But if you also want to understand how a customer is behaving, now it's slightly different. So that breadth of services is essentially what help OXIO to achieve that business objective of understanding essentially how the brand or how the behavior of the customer and the experience of the customer is within the brand. So we spoke about Bedrock. There's obviously SageMaker that is used quite intensively, which allow you to test different machine learning models. So it allows you the ability to essentially design, develop, and deploy those machine learning models across an ecosystem of EC2 instances. Again, always looking at the most cost-efficient way, because for a startup, that's obviously quite an important key. Is the utilization of the resources as efficient as possible. So those are some of the AI services that are being used. And I want to index a little bit. It's essentially what you kind of said, because I think that's the most cool thing, really, and why I love this talk is. It is not AI for the network only, right? So it's how do you combine the understanding of the relationship between the brand and the customer, which essentially it is data around that experience, which is not traditional telco data, and then that telco data, and then you combine that to create that vector of understanding of the customer. And to me, this is the biggest value proposition, and it's super exciting to see the work that you guys are doing.
At some point in time, we are going to get to a single-click deployment. And that's going to be amazing, because then you can effectively deploy globally with a single click. And we want to get to that. I mean, we're not there yet, but we are going to get there, and we're going to get there soon.
It's the one-click deployment, but also the flexibility. So you talked about the evolution of MVNOs into digital brand, and I believe they are so innovative and targeting different personas, different segments within the the market. So how do you help them? Because I guess there is a very high bar. They're not. It's only just about being cost-effective for them. I mean, it's just providing a low rate plans, but it's more about really providing and meeting the customers where they are. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think, speaking to kind of some of where we're getting at, we've heard a lot in the industry about this pivot from telco to techco.
Yeah.
And what I would argue is really what we're targeting and what we're looking at is this concept of how do we infuse a techco with a little bit more telco. Yeah. But ultimately, at the end of the day, and again, this is what I think collaborations like this are so beneficial, is we really want to allow these brands to focus on their core competencies. These core competencies, whether they are fintech or media or some other type of retail consumer-facing brand, that's what they're good at. That's what they want to continue to do. For some reason, they believe that as part of their strategy that connectivity is going to be a compelling value-added service on top of that, but they're not going to become a telco. And that's not the expectation, and they shouldn't. So how can we abstract that complexity for them so that they don't need to get into the weeds of all of the different network elements, but get enough of the insight insights that they need to best serve their customers.
Yeah.
So they're going to focus on their core competencies. We're each going to focus on our core competencies, but bringing that all together to make it as easy as possible so that they have the insights that they need served up in the easiest way to either be proactive, be reactive, or make better strategic decisions for their businesses.
Yeah. And this is how you create loyalty and stickiness and build a very strong brand and, and the seamless experience they want to provide. So any closing remarks from your side? What do you think the future holds? I know you talked a lot about AI and scale and what the consumer at the end and your customer digital brands actually need to be successful. Any closing remarks from your side on what the vision is?
I want to hold you to that one-click deployment. I'm excited for that.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. I think, look, there is a world where brands want to actually own their experiences and deploy with faster time to market. And to your point about bringing their capabilities with other things that they're actually providing to have loyalty, stickiness, and make sure that the brands are actually known, to the community. And then on top of that, just add the telco data. So the telco data becomes the enablement platform as such. But really, what they're going after is how do I use that to bolster my position in the marketplace with already what the things that I'm doing, whether it's fintech or it's retail or it's any other industry that I'm actually working with. And I think that's you're going to see a proliferation of that. And I'm really happy that we are in the middle of enabling that proliferation to happen and make it successful, not just for the United States, but globally. Yeah. So our vision is pretty big. One-click deployment is pretty big. Working with AWS is pretty big. And having the ability to expose this to any brand across the globe is just fantastic.
Thank you. And with this, I think it's the best summary for the session. Thank you very much, so much. I mean, speaking technology, cloud, AI, and how we can really best serve digital brands and taking telco into so many industries to allow them to better serve their consumers and build their brand. So thank you very much for joining me today. It was very, very exciting and inspiring.
Very nice.